The hair for this video was provided by Ywigs.com. Be sure to check out the description box and the top pinned comment for all the links and details. And be sure to check out Ywigs.com for all of your wig and hair extension needs. Let's get into this video. So this is water wave hair in 20 inches. It's important to note that with curly hair especially, you always want to measure it with the length stretched. Otherwise, you're just not going to get a true accurate representation. This hair is also double drawn. What that means is you don't have all the little short pieces. To prep this hair, I'm going to be using some braiding gel. You can use any braiding gel that you prefer, but this is a BTL. I'm going to take a couple of these little bundles, and then from there I'm going to put some braiding gel on the ends of this hair. From there, I'm going to take up the comb and I'm going to comb through it. And that's just going to separate out that hair for me like you see here. It just makes prep a lot easier. From there, I can just easily separate it. I can have this hair pre-laid out in order for me to braid it. As I was saying, this is double drawn Burmese hair in water wave from Ywigs.com. It's incredibly soft stretch. It is 20 inches. I'm also going to be using some synthetic braiding hair. You can use whatever braiding hair you choose. I got pre-stretched hair because it's a little easier to work with. It doesn't create a ton of bulk, and I like the fact that it narrows down as you work with it. I'm prepping it with a thread rack. If you need to get one of those, I'll put some links down below. This is her hair. It is blown out some, so her hair is a bit more curly than this here. Actually, the water wave hair is very close to her natural curl pattern, except her curls pop a bit more. We're gonna start by creating a box. You can kind of see I'm applying my braiding gel on here. We're gonna split into 3 and start braiding this hair. Now, for those that don't know, I'm a huge advocate for bricklaying the hair. I'll talk more about that in a moment. We're gonna add in some hair here. This is synthetic hair. Go 2 steps, add in another piece of synthetic hair. If you need a tutorial on how to do feed-in braids, I have one of those as well. After we've gotten locked down a little bit, then from there I'm going to add in the straight portion of the curly hair. So I'm going to go ahead and place it up underneath my outside strand, and we're going to add it into the strand that I'm essentially holding onto my left hand. From there I'm going to pass under, and that's going to help to lock it in place. I have the long portion of the hair I added clipped up and out of the way, and then I'm going to braid down usually at least an inch. The amount that you braid it down is going to be based on how many strands you're adding. So on her hair, I'm adding between 5 and 6 strands. So I start by braiding down about an inch, inch and a half, and then from there I start going into like 2 inches to 3 inches, so on and so forth. Again, adding underneath my outside strand that's going to pass under next, clip up and out of the way, and then start braiding again to lock in place. You will sometimes with this have like the ends of the straight hair stick out of the braids. That's not a big deal. We are going to go back and trim those up afterwards just to ensure that everything is neat looking, even though honestly the loose hair does kind of help to hide a lot of that. I've went ahead and extended out. You can kind of see this is me doing it here, and you can't even see some of those little straight pieces that are popping out. Not a big deal. Again, we'll trim that at the end, and we're just going to continue to lock this in place. I have it at this angle here so you can kind of see how far apart I'm spacing these sections. Now, I told you earlier I was going to talk to you a bit more about bricklaying. What that basically is how you see how I have her boxes laid out like bricks. I have it to where they are staggered, so that way one section falls perfectly between the previous braids on the row underneath it. I hope that makes sense. I break that down a bit more in my feed-in tutorials as well as my box braiding tutorials, but this kind of builds on those skills. So if you don't know how to do those yet, I definitely recommend checking out those tutorials. At the end, I'm going to fold over a piece, and I'm going to allow some of that curl to go on both sides. So I'm adding it in like I did my first 2 pieces of synthetic. We're going to braid all the way down past the ends of her natural hair, and then from there I'm going to put a little dot of nail glue on there. Now, if you prefer to tie off, you can also tie off, but the nail glue to me is just a lot easier for me to work with, and as long as I'm past her hair, it's not an issue. If you are needing to do this and you're wanting to still incorporate some of that client's hair down into the bottoms, then you would need to tie off instead. From there, while that's drying, I'm gonna clip the little straight ends. making sure that I differentiate between the hair I've added and her hair. You can see some of her hair was sticking out there. I'm not going to trim that, but I am going to get all the little straight pieces. Then from there, I'm going to separate out the braiding hair I added in. We're going to cut that. And that way, the ends are only going to be the human hair. From there, I'm going to taper down the ends on the side with the straight piece. And then we are good to go on that there. I'm going to show this from a couple of different angles just to make sure that you can easily see what's happening from all different angles and be able to get a good understanding. I'll also be giving some tips on what to do when you finish that hair. Again, we're laying this out in a staggered section or bricklaying, so that way this braid falls perfectly between the two braids underneath it, and it just makes the hair look more full. Even if that client has more fine hair, things like that, it just makes it look more full, so that way it's not looking sparse. Again, adding in 2 pieces of hair at the top. Not super concerned about this being extremely even because we're going to be adding in more hair with the human hair as we go. You can kind of feel in your hands as you're braiding as well when you need to add more of the human hair, and you can just kind of go with that and feel it out based on your liking and your client's liking. Some people doing this have a lot more human hair that they add, or a lot more synthetic hair that they add, but I prefer to go with much less synthetic so I can really let the human hair shine in this instance, because the way I'm doing this, it's meant to show more curl than it is braid. If you're doing this more of like a standard boho braid, then you would just be adding in a piece or two to your standard feed ends, and you've got way less of the human hair that you're adding. For her hair here, I ended up using about 2.5 bundles of bulk hair on her hair. And the nice thing from this angle is you can also see where I've pulled this hair up with the clip to keep the hair that I'm adding out of the way, and that way I can just focus on braiding the synthetic hair. Pre-sectioning out that hair has helped out massively as well because it saves me a ton of time while I'm braiding, and it helps to create no mess. Using that braiding gel to separate out the ends, the straight ends on the hair, has been fantastic for controlling that hair down some as well. Now, the only thing I will say that I do not like about this method of braiding is because you're adding in so many pieces like this, it takes much longer. So you're not only doing feed in braiding towards the top, but you're stopping every couple of seconds to add in more hair. That can really slow down the process. On top of that, prepping this hair took what felt like ages. So if you have an assistant, or if you can have that done well ahead of time, I would highly recommend it, because baby, it's a lot. It's a lot just to prep the hair, to be quite honest with you. Now, the outcome was gorgeous. She absolutely loved it, which I'm thankful for. But I will say this definitely does take a little bit of a learning curve if you're not used to it. So if you're not used to doing this, I would highly recommend first practicing your feed-ins, because that's the skill you're going to be using quite a bit on doing this here. So your knotless box braids, your feed-in braids, all of that is the same technique that we're using when we're adding in these human hair strands. If you're finding value in this video, please do me a favor and click subscribe or like on this video. You can see as I've gotten down to the bottom, I folded that hair over. We're going to go ahead and braid down some so I can ensure we're past her hair. And then from there, I'm going to put a small dot of glue on there. Again, if you would rather tie this off, you can tie it off with a synthetic hair. I just don't like leaving the synthetic hair on here. If I had significantly less of the human hair, I would definitely tie off and then just curl the ends of the synthetic hair and let the human hair pieces just kind of be here and there. But you'll see just how full this turns out at the end. If I were to use the synthetic hair in with it, it would just add to tangling and just create a mess, especially when it came down to trying to brush through this hair. So in order to make it as low maintenance as possible and allow her to really enjoy these curls, I went ahead and chose to do it this way. Now I'm separating out the synthetic hair. We're gonna trim that. I trim the straight ends off of the curls, and we're gonna let that fall. And then I'm gonna go ahead and release the curls from that clip I have up there, and that way you can kind of see how it lays. I love this angle here. I know it probably feels like I'm being like, you're doing the most, but I want to make sure you get it as well as possible. So here we're adding in my first piece, and you can see I'm adding in almost immediately. If you're doing knotless braids well, you don't really have to worry about the knot showing at the top because of how you tuck it. Again, I have tutorials on this, so if you need them, feel free to check them out. I'll link them in the description box down below. After I've gotten in a few steps with the synthetic hair, now I'm gonna start adding in the human hair. So feeding that in from underneath my strand that is about to pass under, and we're gonna clip the long portion up and out of the way. Okay, from there we've got it locked in place, and I just braid down a little ways. Like I said, you can kind of feel once this hair starts to thin out some after that bulky, like straight piece that you added has kind of left the chat. From there, you're able to just stop and add in another strand like you see me doing here. Then we'll clip that up out of the way and continue going right on down. If you need me to do a tutorial with this for visual learners where I'm using a different color of hair on a mannequin so you can see, please let me know in the comments. I'd be more than happy to do so. And if you've had an aha moment in this video that has helped you out, please let me know that as well. Once I finish her hair, it looks like this here, and I know it's given Shaka Khan. Give it a moment. It's separated quite a bit right now. And you all know if you have curls, if you run your fingers through it, separated all that, it's going to get huge. So this is her hair with it all braided in. You can kind of see the fullness, the length of it. We are gonna cut it down just a little bit. And then from there, I'm gonna mist with some water. I've already done it on that front panel on her right side, so you can see how this hair does come down. This hair was lovely to work with, very soft. I would definitely recommend checking it out if you're interested in doing these braids on yourself or on someone else. I would definitely recommend checking out Ywigs.com for that. I've got links down below if you would like. This hair was really nice to work with, but of course, because you're doing all this separating, it can get tangled throughout the process of braiding, so I am going to brush through it. This is yet another benefit of using that nail glue versus tying off, is that at the end, I can brush through this hair with paddle brush, and it's not a big deal. I'm now cutting her hair with a razor. If you like the ends more blunt, you can use shears as well, but the razor to me just gives a more natural fall. And I absolutely love how this hair turned out on her. You can see it is beautiful hair. I like the way this fills out as well. It gives you like the benefit of having a sew-in without the worries about like, oh, are my tracks showing, or you know, can I part it over here or over there? It gives you like the luxury of having the braids with the luxury of a sew-in or a wig. It's honestly a really nice style option. From here, I'm just letting her see, but I want y'all to see how this hair is acting, how these curls look. Quite juicy, moisturized, lovely, all the things. I end up using a bit of foaming wrap from Curl Show to be able to define these curls a bit more. And the thing I like about this as well is that you can move your part line based on how you did your boxes. So I'm showing her here that she can toss it either way because she prefers to wear her hair to the side. Why? Because we're millennials. So she's got that hair tossed over to the side. We're elder millennials. Anyway, we've got that hair tossed over to the side, and she's just kind of seeing here, she's not used to having this much hair on her head, so she was like, it's gonna take a little bit of adjusting, but she was like, I do really like the curls. And like I said, this is very similar to her curl, but it is a bit more weighed down. Her hair is gonna typically be a lot more bouncy than this is here, so this is a bit more of a relaxed curl than she's used to. The fullness was nice, length was nice, and you can see here all the details. Take care, God bless, and stay glam. You know I love you, boo. Bye.